Hey everybody, this is Michael here with Max, and welcome to the Safe Zone. And this time we're looking at the brand new 7.1 alpha release of 7 Days to Die. And let me just start off by saying, this is a game changer. Say hello, Max.
Ha, that is an understatement, my fellow survivor.
Indeed. So let me just pan the camera around real quickly here, and you can kind of see one of the biggest changes that's at play in this new version of the game, which is this smoothing of the terrain that they've implemented. You'll recall from previous versions of the game that it had a very Minecraftian aesthetic with all the kind of blocky, Lego-ish terrain and objects that made up the game world. I have to say, like, one of the most impressive things to me about this new version is just how dramatically better the game looks with everything smoothed out.
Yeah, definitely cutting the squaring when you look down was obviously one of the bigger Minecraft things. How everything was really cubed. Like, I remember even a road like this, you'd have like it almost be squared off, like a squared diagonal sort of pathing going into a town anymore. So to have the smooth terraining, it really makes it like its own game, which is definitely great to see, because this is one of these games that, especially after this patch, it's really starting to do some pretty awesome things.
Yeah, so just to give you folks a little background on where we're starting out here, we actually spent the night in this little town, kind of cleared it out of zombies and looted it and spent some time crafting things. And now we're getting a little bit of respawn, and Zeds are kind of wandering into the area based on noises that we've made and just the normal cycle of the game. But what we're actually going to do is move on out of here and head towards a bigger city to get into some more trouble and let you guys kind of see what that's like. But I also want to talk about some of the new features of the game beyond the smooth terrain, because there is just a ton of new stuff in this build. And actually, since the last build that we looked at on the Safe Zone, which was Alpha 5, there's even been a lot of significant changes since then. So let me just start out by saying, I think, you know, if you watched our previous video where we talked about DayZ Standalone and Rust, we mentioned this game a few times in that video, talking about things like death penalties and, you know, intensity and realism and simulation-like qualities. And I think one of the most exciting things that this new version of the game brings to the table is the idea of having more realism options for how you play the game. They've introduced a ton of new mechanics, like having timers whenever you loot things that more realistically represent the time it would take to actually loot that item in reality, which you can opt to bypass at the cost of making much more noise, which in turn attracts the undead. And that kind of goes hand in hand with some of the stealth mechanics that they've introduced in the game, such that when you crouch, for example, as I'm doing here, you can see that there's an indicator in the center of the screen which shows how visible you are, and if undead detect you, you'll get an indicator that lets you know just how much trouble you're in. And that's a really elegant way of introducing that mechanic and letting you know in a spot on the screen that really is the place where your attention is focused exactly what's going on. I think that's a really kind of genius way to implement a feature like that, honestly.
I was gonna say we should probably loot this stuff.
Yeah, I think when I spawned into the server originally, I spawned in from this direction, so I may have already looted these. In fact, I recognize this cluster of 3 cars, so I'm pretty sure that I did.
Yeah,
there were some little bags and stuff that maybe hadn't been, but yeah, it's really amazing what a tremendously significant role sound plays in the game now as of this new version, because in terms of being detected and losing zombie aggro, and actually being able to hear sounds from very far away and use that information to determine your course of action. It's just a significant change from previous builds. Like, the stealth mechanics are really very sophisticated and add quite a bit to the game that just wasn't there previously.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real, and I think with this patch, it's just a real emphasis on hardcore, especially with the implementation of this stealth system.
Yeah, and I think the thing that goes hand in hand with that, which I've had a lot of experience with over the past couple of days as I've been testing it out, is the new death penalties. Because now you can set up your game or set up your server such that, when you die, you basically drop your backpack, and then you get an indicator on your map that shows where the backpack is, so that you can go and retrieve it. But the thing is, if you die again and you had looted anything, you only ever have one backpack indicator at a time. So unless you have a really good memory and can find your way back to where you died originally, you only really get one shot at retrieving your items. And the other thing that's interesting about it is, I talked about sound before, and whenever you are looting your old backpack, one of the things that happens is it shreds apart as you loot it, and it makes this really loud sound that ends up attracting anything that's in the area. So it's like an additional little tweak to the penalty. So basically you can recover from dying. It's certainly not impossible. I've actually done it a couple times just in the past couple of days, but it's definitely a lot more challenging, and it makes dying a much more significant thing in this game than it ever was before.
Yeah, because, I think if any of you guys have watched our previous video covered on this, it was kind of an emphasis, because we like to say this because I think it's really kind of fitting for the sort of game that this used to be, and it's really kind of just YOLOing. Like, you would just kind of cross-country sprint, to any location or anywhere you would need to go, and kind of disregard the zombies until, of course, night came around, and you had to kind of squat in an attic and, like, put a bed or something at the entrance and kind of just wait. It's like that isn't really the case anymore. You can actually go out and sneak around at night. So, it kind of cuts that whole, just run ragged and then just hide for the rest of, forever.
Right. So that car we just passed, I was actually able to loot. So anything from this direction on should be good for looting.
Nice.
But so another significant change, and Max kind of alluded to this, talking about the nighttime stuff, is it used to be at night there would just be a relentless, never-ending stream of zombies that would be attracted to you and would just kind of beeline to your position, wherever that might be, and just kind of onslaught you throughout the night in waves. That's not really how the spawning mechanic works anymore. Basically, if you clear out an area during the day, that area will basically stay clear throughout the night. I think in the town that we just spent the night in, for example, there was a small group of zombies that spawned as a result of us staying there the night, but it was nothing in comparison to how many used to spawn at night.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I think, scaled to be a lot more realistic now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always nice to see, because, again, there's situations at night where it get really ridiculous.
Well, and I think, talking again about the realism, I think realism is kind of the word of the day when it comes to talking about this new version of this game, is, it's frustrating, right? Like, you spend all this game time clearing out an area and securing it and making it safe, and then all of a sudden the game just spawns, 100 zombies in the middle of it, and it's like, what was the point of everything that I just did? if that's
Yeah.
all just washed away. Oh no, that seemed bad.
I'm good.
A little bit of falling damage there.
I lost a good 2/3. Oh, and dogs.
Oh boy. I saw in the latest patch notes for the patch that just came out last night that they lowered their health, so that's probably good. Now, you'll notice that as these zombies are dying, they're starting to make noise, which is going to cause more to track to this location. So one thing that's really key about playing this in a group scenario is kind of having a designated killer who kind of attracts the zombies to where you want them to go, and then having maybe a designated looter who kind of goes around and deals with them. Or, oh my goodness. Hey, Max, is this getting out of hand? Do we need to retreat?
Yeah, we need to get out of here.
Yeah, this doesn't look like a sustainable situation. We should move. Let's book like a couple of blocks away and then stealth and like try to lose this ag, because that's way too many to deal with.
Okay. Whew. That was a tad bit intense.
Yeah, that was definitely more than we could have dealt with, and especially with me not even having a firearm yet.
Yeah.
What I think I'd like to do is, let's get into one of these buildings that's likely to have some equipment in it and see if I can get armed, because I think that'll help considerably.
It'd be nice if we could find one of those. Oh! Speak of the devil. Found a safe over here.
Okay, nice.
It's right in that corner.
Yarp, I'm on it. So there you can see I just bypassed the searching mechanic, which made more noise, but gave me direct access to that equipment, which I really needed. Nice pickup there. I got a couple of damaged SMGs that I can combine to make a pristine one, so I'm going to do that.
I've got some 10mm bullets if you need them.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't hurt. I got 40 out of the safe, but it would be good to have some more. And as you can see, they've also put timers on the crafting now, so all of that stuff just takes time. I should point out, though, that all of these are server settings. Like, if you don't want the hardcore experience, like if you want to just be able to YOLO, you can absolutely still set your server up that way. It's just that, and I know Max tends to agree with this. For me, I want that hardcore experience. I want it to be a little more realistic and a little more intense than it would otherwise be if those settings weren't set.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like this game now has gotten a degree of, more fun, at least for me, because again, we really appreciate when games make that commitment to even, having features that makes a game, realistic or, difficult in any sort of way, because it really is kind of a hard thing to really dedicate a game to. I mean, the only other game that really has made that strive to be incredibly ball-bustingly difficult is, it escapes me. Oh, No More Room in Hell.
Not to interrupt,
really
but 49mm bullets on the floor in front of me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at that. Woo!
Yeah, that was worth interrupting you for, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. I just didn't want you to lose out on that ammo. You know what? It's getting kind of dusky.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just head upstairs.
Yeah. That's
So,
for sure.
just for reference for the folks watching, I have our server currently set up on a 40-minute day-night cycle. So basically you get 40 minutes a day, or 20 minutes a daylight, 20 minutes a night. I may even adjust that a little bit more towards maybe even something like 50 or 60 minutes, because now that nighttime is so much different than it used to be. Like, I used to set the day-night cycle shorter because I was worried about the night being too long. But I don't know. I mean, this is going to be an interesting test here in this city because we're really not as high up as I'd probably prefer to be with night coming on. Like, actually, Max, you see that other building over there, that like 5 or 6 story one?
Yeah.
You think we could make it there before dark?
We wouldn't be survivors if we didn't try.
I'm just worried that we're too close to the ground and that they're going to sense us anyway.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh. Well, we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
I'm going to head for that building. And I'll try to lose them as best I can on the way. I'm actually going to go a little further than that because I think that's too close. Oh man,
Yeah.
I just ran out of stamina too. Bad timing. Actually, maybe I will be going to that building. Well, I'm with you. I'm on your 6. So let's find a spot that looks defensible.
This building right in front of us. Yeah, this should probably be good.
All right, yeah, let's get up at least 2 or 3 stories into it. Because they definitely detect on proximity.
Yeah. Yeah, these Zeds are not playing.
Yeah, we got some nice metal doors in here. I'm going to close that one behind us.
Nice. Alright, crouch, because it looks like we're being hunted.
Roger that. Now, one thing you can set in the server settings is how long they will persist at hunting you once you've been sensed. The default currently is 2 minutes, so hopefully these guys will get bored and give up before nighttime hits.
Okay, the ladder's up over here.
Yarp.
Force of habit.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I would assume that, blocking the only point of entry is still a valid strategy for dealing with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess before we wrap this up, because I don't think it's going to be too interesting for folks to watch us sit on this roof all night, but I did want to talk about some of the other features that have been added in this version, such as advanced cooking and chemistry recipes. Apparently there's quite a few of those that have been added. Also, since the last version we looked at, there's been an entire metalworking system added with forging and various crafting abilities that weren't present in the game previously. man, it's hard to even remember like everything that's been added because there was literally so many things on the last few sets of patch notes. But when you look at the world itself, like the actual map size has been increased significantly. There are different kinds of biomes now in the world, so you have like wintry kind of almost Arctic style areas in addition to the desert and city and green areas you had previously. There's just a ton more going on in this game than there had been before, and that's saying something considering how much there was to do in this game and how enjoyable it was to play previously. The only other thing I wanted to mention, and I wanted to make sure I talked about before I stop, is back to the realism aspect, talking about how you actually go around and harvest materials. It used to be that, like, for example, you could walk up to trees and punch them, or like punch the ground to make holes in it and make mines and stuff like that. It appears that with this new version, again, with a lean more towards realism, you need tools to be able to do those things now. Like you need an axe to chop down a tree, or you need a shovel to dig a hole, or what have you. And again, that's something I tend to really appreciate because I feel like it makes those tools that much more valuable and that much more significant and that much more important than they would otherwise be.
Yeah, again, it's the full commitment towards making a more realistic and really a more challenging and satisfying experience than just, again, kind of how the game used to be, which was just YOLOing around and kind of making these ridiculous stone fortresses for the undead horde to come and basically just survive for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely had a lot of fun playing the game that way for the time that we did, but I also feel like it became very apparent, at a certain point that was not a sustainable gameplay experience. There was a point we were going to reach, and we were actually kind of on the verge of reaching it, I think, where we had kind of exhausted what the game had to offer, and with this new infusion of content and game mechanics, it's almost like a whole new game again for me.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I wanted to touch upon before we kind of wrap this up, is that I do think that with this new patch, it does feel like a completely different game, because looking at it through, what we've been experiencing for the last few minutes, it's like, it's nothing compared to what we used to do. And I think with this new patch, it's made us reevaluate everything that we previously knew or thought we knew about, the proper ins and outs and how to actually, loot things and, where to go and how to deal with the zombies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically, like you say, a total rethink of the whole concept of the game, and I would say absolutely for the better.